Hi, my name is Terry Castillo, your Osceola County School Board member for District 1, and this is Dietitian Brittany Graves. Today, we will be discussing the ins and outs of healthy eating and how healthy eating can benefit your lifestyle. Ms. Graves, to get a better idea of what your responsibilities are, what do you do as a dietitian, and what are the reasons that you suggest someone makes changes to their diet?
Sure. So as a dietitian, I don't just see it as what somebody eats, but I also focus on what people drink, how they're exercising, what things they do for stress, how they're sleeping, because I see it as a whole person. So I want to make sure that somebody doesn't just focus on specifically eating, because each component makes the person a whole person.
There are many different approaches to healthy eating that can support our overall health. How does someone determine what is the right eating pattern for them?
It depends sometimes on a person's personal goals. So if somebody wants to make some changes and just be healthier, then there's a way to do that. If somebody goes to the doctor and finds out that they're pre-diabetic or have high blood pressure or have high cholesterol or they're diagnosed with celiac, it really just depends on their personal goals, but also what the doctor suggests or the provider suggests that determine what is the best eating pattern for a specific person.
What are the benefits that someone can expect to experience from consistently following a healthy eating pattern?
They can feel better, they can have more energy, especially if they're sleeping better. They wake up and just are more refreshed and have a better day. They can feel just some weight loss, or even just making better food choices makes us feel better.
When you find a healthy eating approach that works for you, what is the best way to monitor your progress at home?
We can monitor, again, how we're feeling, but sometimes people want to have a little bit more information. So you can measure like your arms or your legs to see and make sure that you are maybe building more muscle. You can also get on the scale. I don't really like when people get on the scale every single day because it can be counterproductive when somebody steps on the scale. I have had patients who say, oh, well, if I eat dinner, I weigh more in the morning, so I skip dinner. And so making sure that we're not just focused on scale victories, because that can sometimes be hard on a person's mental health, and always thinking that it's just about the scale. And so once a week is a good amount to weigh yourself once a week and see, but also seeing where other things are as well.
There can often be confusion and misinformation around healthy eating. What are some of the most common misconceptions people have about different eating patterns?
One of the more common ones now is the carnivore diet, which I could not do myself because you're basically eating meat the whole time. There's any diet that takes almost everything out of it is not going to be healthy. Our digestive tract really lives on having lots of fiber and lots of antioxidants and lots of vitamins and minerals. And so when you're only eating meat, you're missing out on so many other nutrients that the body really benefits from. So anything that is so restrictive is not going to be realistic to stick with, and is not going to be healthy in the long run. People get very focused on, like I mentioned, the scale, and a scale is just a number, but when people are losing body fat, it takes up a lot of space. Fat is very fluffy, as you can see in this picture. This is 5 pounds of body fat, and this is 5 pounds of muscle. So people get very frustrated when they get on the scale and it's exactly the same as it was 2 weeks ago. But then they say, oh, but you know, my shirt feels a little bit looser. Oh, my pants feel a little bit looser. And that's where the education comes in and saying, hey, you are losing body fat and you're building muscle. And so they're not the same. And so if you're losing fat and you're building muscle, that's why the clothes are fitting better.
Working in education can be difficult at times, and it can lead to habits such as stress eating. What are some of the signs of stress eating, and how can someone begin to shift towards a healthier coping strategy?
Stress eating can be that you're just eating because you feel like you're eating, or because you just want something, you crave the chocolate, or you crave the sweets, or sometimes people tend to crave more chips or something crunchy. So that's kind of signs of stress eating. I also will ask about stress when I'm working with a patient. And I remember very vividly, I had a patient, I asked her, you know, how are your stress levels? And her answer was, oh, I'm not stressed at all. But then as we're talking, she's always fidgeting. She just always feels like she's on the go, rushing all the time. And I think that's such a big component, is that people don't feel stressed because that's their normal day-to-day life. And then I look at it from my perspective and say, oh my gosh, your stress level's up here and you think your stress level's down here. So a lot of it is really just making sure to take more time for yourself. I find so many times people don't take a lunch break. If you're working for 8-9 hours straight through without taking a break, of course your stress levels are going to be high. You've not gotten a chance to just kind of sit and enjoy your food. Beyond that, not even just taking your lunch break, but also not doing things while you're working. I will have people sit on the other side of their desk or go to another friend's space and eat lunch with them, or go in their car even if they have to, because there's so many interruptions. And so definitely taking lunch and taking your break and not having the distractions really plays a big role. Also, as we talked about, sleep, making sure that we're getting enough sleep plays a big role too. Even sleeping less than 5 hours is the equivalent of driving drunk. And so you can see the stress level it plays on our body. Accidents and heart attacks that happen when we have the time change from the spring forward and losing that whole hour is very high in terms of the amount of accidents and heart attacks. And that's just losing 1 hour. So you can imagine when people are consistently not sleeping enough, it plays a role in not only our hormones, but our cortisol levels, and cause us to crave more of the sweets and not really take care of ourselves as well.
Now, we just talked about how sleep is so important, but it can often be easy not to get enough sleep. What are the best foods to focus on for sustained energy throughout the day?
Our American diet for breakfast is highly carb, or sometimes people just have coffee, and that is not something that's enough for the day. A lot of cereals and donuts and muffins that don't have a lot of protein or don't have a lot of fiber in them. Eggs are a good source of protein, and I do find people say, oh, I'm getting my protein in, but 1 egg is only 6 grams of protein. So for a lot of people, eating sometimes 100 grams of protein a day is needed. And so if you figure 6 grams at breakfast time, or 12 if you had 2, is still not cutting the mark. And so I give recipes for ground chicken or turkey sausage that you make the chicken yourself. I think we've gotten so accustomed to buying everything. And if we can just make our own salad dressing and make things ourselves, it's much healthier. There's a lot of less preservatives and additives in there that are going to be much healthier for us. So even like a yogurt bowl, Greek yogurt is a great source of protein, but it's almost always like a loaded question because there's so many yogurts out there. So getting like a plain Greek yogurt, and then adding, I like to add frozen fruits. So I get a frozen, has blueberries and strawberries and blackberries in there. And as the fruit defrosts, all of the juices come out. So you get the sweetness from the fruit, you get lots of fiber from the fruit, antioxidants. And then I like to put a little bit of crushed up walnuts or chia seeds on there. If you wanted to, you could drizzle a little bit of honey if you had to, or sometimes there's some healthier granolas that you can put on there, or even things like cottage cheese are another really good source of protein, 13 grams for just a half of a cup. And so starting breakfast off with a good source of protein and also getting a little bit more fiber in is going to be really essential to kind of get us started through the day and then keep that energy level stronger throughout the day.
I have a sweet tooth. It is my Achilles heel, and I know lots and lots of people have sweet tooth too. So what are some ways that you can substitute some of those sweet treats for something more healthy?
One thing that I really like is I take dates. And so if you take a date and you cut it in half and you take the seed out, now you can either take peanut butter or almond butter and you put a little bit on the inside. Sometimes I eat it just like that, but if I want something with a little bit more chocolate, I'll get some chocolate chips. I'll melt the chocolate chips, and then I take that date with the peanut butter, almond butter, and I kind of roll it in there, and then you stick it in the freezer for a little bit, and it almost tastes like a healthier Snickers bar. It's amazing, so good. Yes. There's also a really good chia pudding recipe that uses chia seeds with cocoa powder and peanut butter, so it kind of makes like a chocolatey peanut butter pudding. So there are definitely lots of healthier options that can be used as sweet treats when we want something that may not be the healthiest option for us.
I'm definitely going to make the date recipe because I love dates. Yes, thank you. How can someone with limited time for cooking create a balanced eating plan?
Well, it starts with preparation. So if you start the day and you're rushing in the morning and you rush out and don't eat breakfast, you're already starting on a bad foot. And then a lot of the times I call lunches as being skimpy because people bring typically a little piece of chicken left over from the night before, one little broccoli floret, and maybe a bigger portion of rice. So to me, I call that, and I say to my patients, that's a skimpy meal. It's not very balanced. We're not getting a lot of fiber coming from the vegetables. We're not getting enough protein. So it's not something that's really keeping you all that full. And so by making sure that you're planning and cooking a little bit more protein to be able to add and make sure that meal has enough protein, making extra vegetables so that you're having a good half a cup or a cup of vegetables so that we're getting that fiber is going to help you feel fuller so that we're not looking for that snack later. Also cooking some on the weekends, or even if you have a friend that likes to cook, I suggest for patients, I'm going to cook this week and you can cook this week, and we can swap, and I'll give you half of what I cooked and you can have half of what you cook, so we're not always cooking all the time. And at nighttime when I've kind of gotten the kids down and it's maybe like 7:30 or 8 o'clock and things are kind of quiet, I'll cook brown rice in the pressure cooker or sometimes put some chicken in there. It's really easy to kind of transform it. So it might be shredding it and putting it onto a salad. It might be putting a little bit of barbecue sauce on it, making like a pulled chicken. It might be making it into like a soup. So it's kind of transforming that meat. Or there are some meal services out there, things like Home Chef or some of those different meals that at least kind of do the hard part of shopping and preparing and figuring out what's going to be cooked. Can be helpful to give people different meal ideas. I think people just get kind of tired of eating the same thing over and over again.
I feel like that's the main reason folks don't like to meal prep, because you're having the same meal over and over again. So I do love that strategy.
Oh.
Now, before we wrap up, what is the best piece of advice that you have when it comes to healthy eating?
So I find that eating enough fiber is something that's really important. They say the average American really only eats about 15, and I feel like it's probably less than that for most Americans. We're supposed to be eating about 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day, like 9 to 11 servings of fruits and vegetables, which, okay, your face, yes,
No,
I get
I
it,
love
I get
that.
it, okay. So it sounds like a lot, but really a serving of vegetables is half of a cup. And so when you eat half a cup of broccoli, you could easily eat a cup or a cup and a half, and that's now 2 or 3 servings. So when you break it down that way, it's not as hard to get that amount. It just takes a little bit more planning, and having those fruits and vegetables, the more that you can add those in, they're gonna fill you up more, so you're not needing so much of the sweets and you're not feeling like you need to have the chips or all the snacking things, because you're eating actual fiber that's gonna fill us up more and provide more nutrition for us. So fiber is really super, super important, and people don't eat enough of it.
Oh my gosh, I thought I ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. Apparently not. Now, Ms. Grace, thank you so much for spending time with me and giving me all this awesome information about eating healthy. I really appreciate your time and such great advice.
Thank you so much for having me.